Douglas gave us some McNuggets of quotes that we got to dissect. So I hope you guys are ready. This isn't the dollar menu. We're talking big bucks right now, right here on Boy Green Meets Wudi.
Zoinks! It is unequivocally the Super Bowl for New York Jet fans.
Field Yates, baby. Field Gashdarn Yates. Let's bring him on the show.
Come on, people. Connor Rogers is joining the show. What's up, Connor? But Trevor Gashdarn Sycamore, baby, for me, personally, my favorite New York Jet of all time.
Wow, it's great to be on. What an intro that was right there.
Paul, nobody does an intro like you, man.
Paul, you give the best intro of literally any podcast that I've ever been.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas.
Welcome. We are here at another episode of Boy Green Meets Wudi. All right, it is your boy, James Wudi. We got Boy Green right there. And I told you in the cold open, we are talking about McNuggets, nuggets that were dropped, right, by Joe Douglas. And don't worry, there was somebody else who was dropping some nuggets of their own. All right, is he a hard man or is he a soft boy? We don't know, but we will be talking about that later. Right here, right now, we're going to talk about Joe Douglas, the Jets GM, and what he was addressing. And right now, you know, the talk of the town is Alijah Vera-Tucker. We don't know, and apparently neither does Joe Douglas. Joe Douglas also doesn't know if he will even be a contracted Jet next year. I mean, that is quite the situation, because on a team that right now only has 2 starters out of 5 needed on the offensive line, right? Are we picking up the 5th-year option? That's something we'll figure out after the draft. That's something that Joe Douglas said. Well, let's pass it over to Boy Green. What would you do with that 5th-year option?
Well, first off, Woody, nice to see you, pal. I love doing this with you. Another shout out, the Combine. It's just after 3:00. The Combine coverage officially started a few minutes ago. We're going to have our workouts Thursday through Sunday. So all the underwear Olympics, which I thoroughly enjoy, all the Combine festivities, we'll be diving in on that. And yes, I am, to address the obvious for those who are watching, I'm wearing a Survivor buff and a big Survivor t-shirt. I'm a big Survivor fan. So you may be wondering, what the hell? What is on Boy Green's head? That is a Survivor buff.
I thought you were just done paintballing, actually. I thought you came from paintball.
So I got, the full buff. Very nice. So I'm just repping for the Survivor debut last night of season 46. So I wanted to randomly throw that out there. But the 5th-year
number of seasons, they really have 46?
Yes. The show came out in the year 2000, and they have about 2 seasons every year. Now they do, but it is in full flower. So it's been the average. And we're in season 46 right now. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Jeff Probst.
Wow.
So I just want to share that. Just want to share that insight into my life that people didn't want. Anywho, the 5th-year option thing, I find that interesting for a couple reasons. With Quinnen Williams, when a couple years ago, the good old days, Joe Douglas was asked, 5th-year option, what's happening with Quinnen? And he unequivocally said, yeah, obviously. Like, of course, we're accepting the 5th-year option on Quinnen. This time around, we'll see after the draft. We'll make that decision. I thought it was weird. Shameless plug. I had Brian Costello of the New York Post on the show yesterday. I brought my weirdness to him. Is that odd? Am I reading too much into it? What did you think, Kaz? And he also said that's kind of odd when you bring up the Quinnen thing. Like, why wouldn't it just be a slam dunk? I've asked Zach Rosenblatt, who's been on my show. I asked Costello. And they said it should be a slam dunk, but it is weird. So it's $15.3 million. We now know officially. There's no more projections anymore now that the cap is official. We know it. It is $15.3 million for AVT, and that's fully guaranteed. Immediately, the moment you accept that is going to be fully guaranteed number, and that would be in 2025. You have to make that decision after their 3rd year. So if they decline it, that means this upcoming season will be his contract year. They accept it. They have him for team control for the next 2 seasons. I just thought it was weird that it wasn't this slam dunk or publicly anyway. What is there to wait? Why wouldn't you accept that option? So that'll be a heebie-jeebie thing to watch. I have to make the decision by May 2nd. That one just kind of caught me off guard because it seems like with the notes you just gave, 2 offensive linemen are the only starters they have on this team out of 5. You'd think one of them, well, we might as well lock this kid in. Obviously, the hesitation has to be durability.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it looks like Joe Douglas is about to swing for the stars, So if he feels like he can, bring in, is that something that's on his board right now? Bringing in 4 starters where Alijah isn't as needed. That's something that maybe he's trying to cook up. I don't know. I like AVT when he is on the field. The last 2 seasons, he has played like one of the best offensive linemen in all of football, regardless of the position. They have this boy playing musical positions out there, and he's being phenomenal at all of them. So that type of versatility, that type of production, I don't think that's something that I would be willing to give up per se. But if we're talking cap and all that type of stuff, $15.3 million guaranteed, for 7 games, right? That's where what you say with the hesitation with the injury. Is that what it is? I mean, I don't know. They're not playing in Denver this year, so I'm good. I feel,
although they're hosting Denver, I still am kind of maybe we should still sit them for that game just for the juju of it.
No, it has nothing to do with the team. It's just the mile high.
Think that's it. I don't know what it is. I'm just that's just incredibly bizarre that season-ending injuries have happened against the same opponent in the same location. So yes, we are shifting the location this year. It just again, I have a disdain for the organization of Denver, both for the AFC Championship game in the late 90s and also for this situation entirely. Both.
And Sean Payton. All right.
That too. Yeah. Which, by the way, having that on the docket again, you got to be honest, that Sean Payton, Aaron Rodgers, Hackett thing, that's all going to be once again a topic because obviously it had less zest with Zach Wilson at quarterback. It will have a lot more with Aaron Rodgers, who's the one who gave some of those comments live at training camp.
Yes, I mean, hey, they still got the dub,
Sure, it was a fun one. Yeah,
I mean, that was Brees, who also that first injury. Brees fell down for the season as well.
Same game as ABT.
Mm-hmm. He got to have his redemption song, right? He got to play a full game. Had a very nice long TD that game. ABT wasn't as lucky, so let's keep him out of the thin air. All right, we'll be looking at the elevation. Throughout the schedule, make sure that AVT is good. But I personally, I would pick it up. I do want him to be a foundational piece. I feel good about him being a foundational piece. It's possible that, he might play himself out of a contract, because you could also decline the option with the intention to still re-sign.
Sure, but more pressure with Sauce. You got to pay next year. Garrett, you got to pay. Let me rephrase that. They become eligible to pay. Sauce, Garrett, Jermaine, players. You're really going to have to start thinking about it. Breece Hall will be entering, and that's kind of sick to think. Next year will be the contract year for Breece Hall. After that year, he will be a free agent. That's wild to say because it feels like he got here 5 seconds ago, but it's true. Michael Carter II is a free agent next year. DJ Reed is a free agent next year. So. If you do that with ABT, that's the risk. Let's say you decline the option and then he balls out. My first response, if I'm Joe Douglas, oh shit, that's a bag of money, and you have one franchise tag to play with. That's the worst case scenario for the Jets. They decline the option, he balls out, looks amazing, and offensive linemen get paid, of course, and then the Jets are up, Schitt's Creek. That's the worst case scenario. So that's why I expect a ... except of the 5th year option, except with an A. Yes.
Yes. For all the literary people out there. And yes. I completely agree. And when you talk about guys like Breece and Sauce and Michael Carter II and Garrett, some of the different positions that we will have to, or they will have to make commitments toward, right? That's when we start talking about premium positions. Which positions do you want to lock down for the foreseeable future? And that's where I like to try to give the nod to AVT. And that's also why throughout this show, I've been saying move him to left tackle so that you secure one of the most premium positions in football for the foreseeable future.
I got good news for you, Woody. I got good news. So in my conversation with Brian Costello, he didn't say Alijah Vera-Tucker. He didn't use your patented thing there, but I'll tell you what he did say. Based on this is Costello. I'll tweet out the clip later at some point. There's just overwhelming content, so we'll get it out when we can. He said from conversations he's had around the combine and people he's spoken with, he believes AVT is 100% going to offensive tackle from his conversation. So book your. I know Joe Douglas and everyone's saying, we don't know. Who knows what's going to happen out there? But from Brian Costello's reporting on my show yesterday that he's going to tackle, it's just a matter of left or right. And maybe that will be determined free agency draft or what have you. But hey, so book it, baby. Book your Alijah Vera-Tucker. Maybe that is no longer the debate. So just want to share that nugget.
Well, you already know that would make me the happiest man in all of the land. That's actually what I was just about to ask you, right? Because Joe Douglas, that was the next thing that he said was, it will be one position, right? It's not
Yes.
changing. I like that, right? Because it seemed like, I blame thin air. Maybe it's just all the moving, right? Maybe it's all the musical chairs on that line. But one position, they're still trying to figure out what it is. I actually like that too, because if they were to go in right now and say, oh, no matter what, you are this, then that really limits their free agency. So right now, they probably are. I think there is a lot of poopy being thrown at the wall, and it's time to see what sticks. I think they are just going to be hurling that off that poor wall, just covered, and we'll see what sticks before they make that decision. But I'm hoping, again, when we talk about long-term making investments in who's in the building, I'm hoping it turns out he's a left tackle. I believe your team right tackle.
Yeah, that's what my gut says, to be honest. I mean, although I see the world, to your point, right? You go in the draft, I think there are two clear left tackles in the class, Olufashanu, Joe Alt. If they get neither, then you have a bunch of right tackles, which means if you take one of those, then your only trap door would be AVT unless you sign a Tyron Smith. So then he would have to go to left tackle. So yeah, my gut says right, but I can clearly see the path without question of how he ends up ultimately at left tackle. But I am all on board. Joe Douglas saying, hey, let's keep him at one spot. God bless America. And the other thing I would say is what you just said, that I think a lot of people have gone back and forth. I've seen some Jet fans complaining about it on social media that, oh, wow, you're not going to plan the AVT thing before free agency. You're dumb. But I think really when you really think about it, the team as a group doesn't return together until like a week before the draft. Last year was April 18th. I don't have the Jets schedule in front of me in terms of when they all report back to the facilities for voluntary workouts. It was about April 18th last year, which was a week before the draft. So that's normally it. Okay. Like involuntary workouts, I don't think it's life or death if on April 18th, let's use that number, that you don't know whether AVT is a guard or tackle yet. Like the difference between knowing on April 18th to May 1st, what's the big difference of 2 weeks? Is AVT like, oh no, I lost 2 weeks of preparation. I can no longer do it. No. So like for the Jet fans who are kind of overreacting to that, it's probably better to everything you just said, not to repeat everything because you said it eloquently, but it is the fact of the matter that have flexibility heading into free agency, have flexibility heading into the draft. And as Joe Douglas said at the combine presser, he could play 4 of the 5 positions. That presents them a lot of wiggle room heading into this offseason. So I'm all about it.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better, right? I said it. You said it. Wrap that up, tie it up in a bow. But there's actually something that I felt like was untied, right? A box that was open, almost Pandora's box. And I definitely want to get your take, Boy Green, because my inbox has been flooding. And, I'm small potatoes compared to you, Boy Green. If my inbox is flooding with all these, clips and takes and all this stuff, I can only imagine what your phone. I mean, my phone died literally by all the people contacting me. But Mecole Hardman, he gave an interview.
Yeah,
rather spicy one. Rather spicy
quite.
one. And then the Jets kind of fired back with some spice of their own. So I really want to know, what were your thoughts? Because I have thoughts on the interview itself. What were the thoughts on Mecole's interview, and then of course, the Jets' retaliation. I want to know your thoughts there too. So A and B.
Okay, before I get to that A or B, our fans have an A or B. First off, on Instagram, we have Abs, who's asking, I want to know if Wudi can hear anything with the headphones over that beanie.
I mean, she is asking the tough questions. Let me tell you.
Yeah, because that looks like a lot of beanie,
more.
and the headphones look like they're holding on for dear life. So is any audio penetrating the beanie? I think it's a fair question. I've been kind of wondering myself during this interview. Yeah,
yeah, of course.
Okay.
If I couldn't, then I wouldn't be able to respond to you. I think it's working pretty well. No, I'm out here. I'm about to create trends. All right. First, I'm out here patenting Alijah Vera-Tucker. Next, we're gonna have the headphones over the beanie.
Okay. Anywho, just want to establish that real quick in the middle of this, but yeah. So Mecole Hardman. So Mecole Hardman's doing all these interviews because he caught the game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl. I think that's the platform that a wide receiver 4 or 5 is getting promoted here. And he made the catch, so you got to give him credit. And he's getting a lot of exposure for it naturally. And I will, Boy Scout, my Boy Scout hand is up here. I did not listen to the hour and 20 minutes of the Pivot podcast. I skipped around to try to find the specific sections in which the Jets were brought up, and I listened to those bits. And it does sound like, as Thomas Morstead said on social, a disgruntled former employee. That's how it really comes off to me. A guy who, like he had, I mean, let's just cut the baloney thin here. He admitted, and oh boy, if he is a PR guy, that guy should be fired or needs to have a bigger voice in the next meeting, because Mecole Hardman admitted on the show that he told Brant Boyer, the Jets special teams coordinator, to go kick rocks when he said, hey, Brant comes to Mecole. Hey, Mecole, Xavier Gibson's kind of injured. Can you return punts for the Chiefs game? Your former team? And he apparently tells him on game day. Hardman's like, excuse me? You're telling me, why didn't you tell me this days ago? I needed time to prepare, Hardman says. Pause time. I go, are you in the NFL, man? Did a coach told you to, like, hey, suit up, multi-millionaire, line up at your old team? For that part is even, like, not important, but, like, it's the NFL. Yeah, okay, I'm sorry they didn't give you a week heads up. They give you a day heads up. Figure it out, man. So he admitted publicly, yeah, I told my coach to go blow off. Okay, that seems like a weird thing to announce to the public, like that he did not listen to his coach. That's weird. Something else that's weird. Yeah, I tampered ahead of a trade. That seems like a weird thing to announce publicly too. The whole thing was just weird. It was just odd. And, of course, a former Jet wide receiver caught the game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl. It is what it is. That's just a funny, it is what it is. I just kind of chuckled when I was at a Super Bowl party. What happened? I'm like, of course, that's what happened. But that was really all it was to me. It wasn't like, the Jets, what an idiot for getting rid of this guy. Like, I was questioning why you signed him in the first place and seemingly had no plan. Like, that part seemed odd. But as we're seeing here, as Mecole Hardman continues to open up his mouth, that we're hearing more and more details of, so that's why. Oh, you refused to play in a game. Yeah, well, that tracks. Seems to make sense on why a certain situation here, there, or otherwise happened. So those sorts of things seem to be very revealing. I guess that would be the one word coming off that interview, very revealing. Before we even get to the playbook stuff, just off the interview that you're talking about, revealing. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, most interviews are, and
well, you hope, yeah.
That's true. We hope they are. I was never a fan of the signing. These there's a specific breed of Jets fans that always look at somebody's trash, and for some reason some reason think it's going to be a Jet treasure, you know, and they send me the clips of Hardman. Ooh, you see that speed? Ooh, Andy Reid, you know, he didn't know how to use him, but with the Jets, oh, he's about to be a superstar. Rewind that. Andy Reid, Hall of Fame offensive mind, one of the best offensive coaches in the history of football. Andy Reid didn't know how to use him.
That was a weird narrative. Rich Cimini of
Nathaniel
ESPN. Yeah, Rich Cimini of ESPN, shortly after Hardman was signed, explained in his piece that the Jets made Hardman promises. We're going to use you in ways, basically, I'm paraphrasing, that the Chiefs did not. And you take a step back and think of everything that you just said. Interesting.
Exactly. I was flabbergasted. I said, this isn't this. People actually thought like this was a big deal. I didn't think it was a big deal. But then I do admit that by the time we got to week 4, I was confused, right? Because we had old man Cobb out there, you know, just running cardio. You know, I did the same thing that Randall Cobb was doing at Planet Fitness the other day, just running. I was on the treadmill, you know, I'm out here, you know, $15 a month, you know, like I was just out here doing my thing. And like I was confused at that point because I don't know. It's going to be hard to convince James Wudi that Randall Cobb in 2023 is better than Mecole Hardman. It's going to be hard. And Aaron Rodgers isn't even there to be like, oh, like keep Cobb on the field. So there was definitely a little bit of confusion there. And I think, you know, he kind of spoke about that as well. So there were a couple of things that I could definitely see. Like when he spoke of the dysfunction, right, of the organization, I was like, oh, well, you know, that kind of sounds right. He spoke about, and this was one thing that I went back and forth with a couple people on. He was like, oh, well, I know what winning looks like, right? I've won, you know, a couple of rings. And
yeah, he brought up that. Oh, he brought up that. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and it's like, oh, like, we'll sit down. Like, what, were you a part of? Like, what do you mean? Like, you know, you were a role player at best. And while that's 100% true, like, you still see, like, you can see what a good organization looks like, and you can see what a lesser organization looks like. If you go to a hotel, 5-star hotel, right, you see valet parking, right? And then you go to another hotel and you see, oh, street parking, right? The same dude that checked you out at the front desk brings your bags upstairs. There's a different, like, there's a tangible difference, whether you had something to do with it or not. So I think from those standpoints, I was kind of getting his back. And then, yeah, now I'm seeing other clips and I'm like, Mecole, I can't get your back. And now we will bring it to stage B of this leak. So talk to me about that, because I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I know of a Connor Hughes tweet. Is there more to kind of back up the validity of this claim? What's going on here?
Okay. First off, I just want to, because so it's not just a full-on Hardman bashing session. I do want to give a tip of the cap to exactly what you said. There are slivers of truth in the criticism of the coaching staff. Like it was the Aaron Rodgers show. It was, they didn't know what they were doing after Aaron Rodgers went down and stuff like that. So tip of the cap. I don't think Hardman is this wild maniac where everything he says is a lie. Like, we're going to get into some of that in here in just a second, but a tip of the cap to, yeah, the offensive coaching staff did look like a disaster. Clear observation. He saw that in that apparent hotel parking lot. What the hell? This is not the same hotel I've been staying at the last 4 years. What did? Hey now. So, okay, tip of the cap. Hardman was right, and a lot of what he said about the offense and attention to detail things, that the spot on, sir. So I don't want that to get lost. That's true. But why it is getting lost as well. I mean, people, he did it on the Boy Green Daily morning show. Mecole Hardman. Well, first, let's go in order. 2 players. So Mecole Hardman's in the news. So, like, I guess let's go to the beginning real quick. Mecole Hardman's in the news because of everything that's happening. The Jet players are kind of getting annoyed that Mecole Hardman is in the news and taking pot shots at the Jets. This is not the first time he's done tweets. He did the interview with Andrew Siciliano. Hey, are you staying with the Chiefs? He's like, I don't know, business. And I'm not sure what's going to happen. Siciliano goes, well, would you go back to the Jets? And then Hardman goes, no. I know that for sure. Not going. And then that's a viral clip. Jets suck. Blah, 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 blah. We're getting all that crap. Okay. So he's in the news, taking pot shots when he can on podcast interviews and things of that nature. We get to this. More jibber jabber from Hardman. And Sauce tweets out first. He sends out a tweet. He says, I don't know why we're not talking about the Georgia Eagles. And I'm going to mix some of this together because I don't have the tweets in front of me. But, that's basically what he said is, hey, we're not going to talk about the Eagles playbook leak. And then Sauce deletes the tweet. And people are like, what did he mean by that? Because he didn't say Mecole Hardman's name, but it's very easy to connect the dots on who he was talking about. Then we see Kenny Yeboah also apparently deleted the tweet. He was responding to a fan. What are your thoughts on Hardman? And he said, disgruntled guy, blah, blah, blah. But also he was leaking that stuff to Georgia Eagles. That's how he referenced them because they have all those Georgia players on the team saying, and both players accused, again, directly, indirectly, Mecole Hardman leaked stuff to the Eagles. This was all we knew. Week 6 Eagles game, they leaked stuff. We know offensive game plan stuff. So, okay, those were players kind of you had to squint to see the correlation, not squint like it didn't exist. You had to go, is that what he just did? Was that what just happened? And then Connor Hughes tweets out. So it must have gained his attention when he saw the tweet. He said, wow, that Sauce tweet was kind of interesting. Connor Hughes tweets out. So Connor starts doing, again, I've not spoken to Connor, but I'm just drawing the lines here. He says that's an interesting tweet from Sauce. Connor Hughes, a light bulb goes off in his head. He's like, let me look into that. Let me reach out to some sources. That sounds interesting. And apparently dropped the bombshell report last night that, there is something into this. Not only did Mecole Hardman, and I want to make sure I get this word right. I want to make sure I get this word right from Connor. So let me make sure I have it in front of me here to get the exact wording of this bombshell report here. 1 second. Here it is. I'm told there was validated belief, strong wording there from Hughes, that the Jets believe that Hardman not only leaked stuff for the Eagles game, so that was kind of speculated by players, so the Sauce and the Kenny Yeboahs, but in addition, the Chiefs game in week 4, Mecole Hardman also leaked the offensive stuff to the Chiefs. And Hughes in his reporting said it was because Hardman was frustrated and that he was so frustrated with his role that he started, again, basically sabotage. Now we could get into all the terms, breaking the NFL written codes, unwritten codes, all these things of leaking, going to their sideline. Hey, we're running left now. I don't know if it took a rocket scientist to break down what Nathaniel Hackett might have been doing on the offensive side of the ball. Not sure defenses needed that, but perhaps that's why Hackett was so ineffective, because Hardman was just leaking the playbook to the other side. That's probably the real reason, obviously. I'm being sarcastic for those people in the back, laying the sarcasm on pretty thick, but it seems like, quite frankly, and I'm surprised it's not picking up steam right now. It was not brought. So I have a radio show here in Syracuse. We have interns and I have another co-host and stuff. No one brought it up on the show today, the Hardman thing. And I wanted to see if they would without me, crazy Jet fan, bringing it up, because I feel like it should be one of the top stories in sports that an NFL player allegedly, according to his former teammates, and then a respected reporter in Connor Hughes, and he just has a full write-up. I haven't checked out his full write-up, but I saw the tweet last night that, whoa, he leaked stuff to the opposition. That is breaking the integrity of the league. So, that should be the top story in sports, but I'll give you an example here today locally in Syracuse. We didn't talk about it one iota. So maybe it's not, but it felt like it to me that this story should be getting a lot more attention because that is crazy, and Mecole Hardman should never have a job in the NFL again if this is true.
Hard to disagree. Key words of that sentence is if this is true, right?
Right.
If that is the case, I mean, yeah, it completely destroys the integrity of the league. And if you say something, there's no other fitting punishment, right? You can't be like, oh, well, don't talk to the next team, right? What are you gonna monitor his cell phone? What are you there's really nothing you can do. That's just all right, ban, you're out. You don't have the opportunity to be in a locker room and share the secrets again. So I definitely agree with that sentiment. It's just from where I'm sitting, which is, as you can see, nowhere special. It's just hard for me to kind of, get my pitchfork. It's over there. It's over there. I have one. I own one. But to pick it up right now and, I'm going to need to see a little bit more. I mean, the Chiefs game was literally Zach Wilson's best game of his career at that point. So what was he leaking? It's almost as if he took a leak. I don't know if he leaked the game plan because the offense looked good. That was their only good game for weeks. They only had one other like really good offensive game that whole season. The whole season.
Yeah, the second half of the Texans game. And here, I just pulled up the Hughes report, so I just want to make sure I add in. So you said, like, if it's true, here is from Connor Hughes is the only thing that kind of reiterates the tweet. But SNY learned Gardner and Yeboah were not alone as the organization validated those beliefs internally that Mecole Hardman leaked those offensive game plans both in week 4 and week 6. The Jets ended up trading him 3 days after the victory over Philadelphia. So just to give that further reporting from Connor Hughes on it.
Yeah, see, but like, don't you think? And I don't know. I truly don't know. So I'm going to ask you. That's why we ask questions is to find out. Don't you think that if that was like, if they were like, oh, he leaked this second time in 3 weeks, we got to trade him? Wouldn't there be some sort of crumb like at that time of why he was traded? Because when that did happen, there was a little bit of mystery. It was like, oh, I guess it was for no reason, like, we just signed him for no reason, didn't use him and then traded him away. Like, wouldn't there be something that was like, oh, the Jets, soured out. They knew that this was happening. Like, it just seems odd to me that we probably would have never heard this little crumb or this nugget if Hardman didn't, like you said, he was yapping a little bit. I don't blame him for the Siciliano. I mean, why would he come back to the Jets? Anybody who takes offense at him being like, that was horrible, I'm not doing that again. No one would do that again. But
right.
This, I feel like the timing of it is, it just seems
fair.
like more retaliation than
I just want to say it's fair. You're right. And I appreciate that you're not just accepting this, that you're questioning it like, okay, it's interesting, but why? The missing piece that we don't know right now, unless I get an interview with Sauce Gardner or Kenny Yeboah. And I don't believe that's happening. Kenny Yeboah was not very happy with a tweet I had in the middle of the playoffs dunking on Elijah Moore. He was not a big fan of that. So I had to, he was not a fan of that. And then I almost did have Sauce for an interview a few years ago, but that did not happen either. So I've not talked to either of these individuals in an interview setting, but the missing piece of the puzzle, Detective Wudi, is this. When did Sauce and Yeboah know? Are they the only two that know? And if they have some inkling, obviously. And would they deleted their responses, so maybe they aren't willing to talk about it on the record. Maybe it's an off the record thing. When did they find out? And then did they share that with anyone? Were they alone? There's a couple of follow-up questions that are necessary. I don't know if Sauce or Yeboah will continue to share those details. That's to your point. Did they know it off of week 4 and said, that's weird? Because I would imagine it only has to happen once for me for it to be over. Because if I'm part of the Jets team and I hear a player in week 4, I'm like, excuse me? Like, you're gone. Get out of the building, or an immediate trade or something. He wouldn't have lasted to week 6 for that to happen. So again, that's the part we don't know. So that's the speculation part where we don't know when they learn that information and who they potentially shared it with. So I can't speak to that. And Hughes did not address that in his report. So it's a fair counter question. I have no answer for it.
All right. Well, time for me to slide into Kenny Yeboah's DMs and see.
Please do.
Yes. But definitely very curious. Again, pitchfork is right there. It's not like I don't have one. I just, don't want to pick it up if it's not necessary. Obviously, Mecole is. I feel like he's irrelevant. I don't love, how much these little issues seem to, like affect the whole organization. I actually had a conversation with one of my friends, one of my favorite Jets pages out there, Take Flight Today, and we were talking about that a little bit, and I was just. Give him a follow, but just all of that, like, all these winning organizations, I feel like they rise above. They truly, block out the noise. And that's something that, we heard Salah say on Hard Knocks. He had that huge speech about, flying so high, right? You're above all that. But every little thing that happens, I feel like they responding. nonstop. So it's just very, it's very interesting to me. And this regime, I feel like, just has one disgruntled receiver after another.
Yeah, it's been a streak, right? Denzel, Elijah.
I mean, you could say, "Oh, Mecole sucks. Oh, Alijah sucks. Oh, Denzel Mims sucks." But after a while, are they the problem? Like, is it 7 unique problems, or is it the one regime that's been in control during that time? So, honestly, that's my biggest takeaway from this whole thing is this coaching. I don't even know if it's coaching, if it's the GM, the regime has done a horrific job of keeping people happy on offense. And the leaks, right? That Taylor Embry, which is something we never talked about, but with the running back coach, was he, leaking things, right? Was he the media leak? Now we're talking about Mecole Hardman. Was he leaking to other teams? There's all of this nonsense that does not happen in winning organizations. We thought this regime was building a culture, but it seems like every single time I wake up, there is more proof that they haven't built a thing.
Well said. I have nothing to follow up there, but hopefully, like I said, I believe winning. I guess the only thing I would add is winning cures all ails, and these stories are very prevalent. Whether it's Mecole, something to this crazy level, or anything of the leagues during the season, Zach Wilson hesitant to play, this or that. If you're winning, I don't think those are there. The Jets haven't won. They have one winning season since the year 2010. That was 2015. That's just one winning season. A record that was above 500 has only happened once since the regular season year of 2010. So, you got to win. And if Aaron Rodgers is throwing touchdowns all over the place, I think all this falls by the wayside. And the things that beat reporters are covering are, wow, look at this team, Super Bowl, playoffs. I think that's a conversation, but it's not because the team has sucked. And when you suck, there's groveling, and there's people that are more than willing to play the blame game at the bottom of the pile going, hey, yeah, we suck because old Johnny Blue over here ain't doing or this or that or up or down or left or right. I think that all changes the moment you start winning, and I think that's going to happen. I don't just think, I know it. I feel it in my blood, my veins, my core, that Aaron Rodgers is going to lead the Jets to winning football this upcoming season.
All right, well, let's schedule a doctor's appointment with our boy Green. Make sure that his blood, he needs to get his blood drawn ASAP because it sounds like he might be feeling unwell. But everyone, I think this was a tremendous episode of Boy Green Meets Wudi. All right, a lot of nuggets. I hope you had your sweet and sour sauce as we was eating those nuggets. Next week, I believe, we had one more position. I was having so much fun going through the roster with all the position battles. We have one more that features my favorite Jet. So I hope we get to talk about him in the future of that interior defensive line position next week. But for this week, was there a lot to digest? Okay, so walk it off. All right. Planet Fitness, $15 a month. You can run around like Randall Cobb was doing the first 8 weeks of the season. All right. Boy Green, anything you got to say?
No, well said. Yeah, I think we should. Again, this is a show that reacts to the news. And I feel like it would have been criminal, quite frankly, on Tuesday or even this show on Thursday. We do it Tuesdays and Thursdays live, each of those days at 3:00. It would have been criminal to me to be ignoring the elephant in the room and saying, well, we scheduled interior defensive line, so through hell or high water, here it comes. I'm very excited about that episode for a lot of obvious reasons. And that should be coming up next week, pending breaking news, I suppose. But it is a position that I want to talk about, but I love that this show can adapt or die, as they say in the movie Moneyball. I love that movie. You have to adapt or die, and now we will adapt to the situation, and we won't see you again till Tuesday, Wudi. So people enjoy the NFL Combine. Like I said, the coverage started, if you're watching live, about 45 minutes ago, and it will be running through Thursday through Sunday, live in Indianapolis for all the workouts. I'm very excited to dive into it.
Whew, there it is. I'll definitely be diving in, get your snorkel, and do your thing. All right. And we will see you next week.